It's Thursday, July 7. In the headlines, Jamaica has its first case of monkeypox. Regionally, CARICOM agrees on new MASA. Internationally, Boris Johnson is to step down as Prime Minister of the UK. And in sports, reggae girls do battle with USA for a spot in the World Cup. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaica has recorded its first case of monkeypox, but the health authorities say they do not anticipate any risk to the population. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton made the announcement at a press conference on Wednesday.
The patient is a male who recently traveled from the United Kingdom. He presented to the public health system on July 5th, having arrived on the island some 5 days earlier. The patient has been isolated, having confirmatory tests done, and his close contacts quarantined following contact tracing.
He says the confirmation of the first case of monkeypox has triggered the ministry's emergency protocols.
Among other things, our Emergency Operations Center has been activated. A review of all isolation facilities is to be done to look at the capacity to manage both monkeypox and COVID-19. The necessary health protocols, including surveillance, clinical management, lab management, as well as infection prevention and control, are being completed for the distribution to health teams island-wide.
Monkeypox is a disease that can make you sick, including a rash which may look like pimples or blisters, often with an earlier flu-like illness. Monkeypox can spread to anyone through close, personal, often skin-to-skin contact. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Mackenzie says Jamaicans should be aware of the symptoms and isolate once they see the signs on their person.
For example, travelers that are coming in, persons would, if they would develop any kind of symptoms, any kind of rash, then you should seek help. You should stay home for the first part, isolate yourself, and you should inform your medical practitioner that you're coming to visit so that the necessary precautions can be taken. And protect yourself, of course, when you go out from the risk of, protect others, I should say, from the risk of getting the disease by covering any kind of rash that you have. And of course, wearing a mask. The fact is that if you are carrying out the COVID precautions in terms of wearing the mask, keeping your physical distancing, then you will prevent the spread of monkeypox as well.
Dr. Tufton says given the nature of the virus, there is no need for alarm.
I do not envision the kind of response to the novel coronavirus when it came on in March 10th, 2020. I believe that we can manage this current threat, and if we play our part, we can manage it in a way where we can continue to live our normal existence.
The health minister is urging Jamaicans to play their part to ensure that the virus is contained. Meantime, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Mackenzie is warning partygoers to observe the well-established protocols to reduce the likelihood of transmitting infectious diseases such as COVID-19 and monkeypox.
In every situation now, it should be part of the new norm that you avoid close contact in order to prevent spread. I mean, we are in a pandemic. And so therefore, we should therefore be avoiding close contact to prevent spread of COVID-19 because we just do not know when a new strain that is going to be a more severe strain will develop. So for everybody who is planning to go out there and party, I should hope that they would bear this in mind, that close contact is still something that is to be avoided, and to use your precautions, the wearing of your mask, the hand sanitizing, hand washing frequently to prevent contact. But I would also say to persons, another message that should have been clear across the COVID-19 pandemic is to stay home if you are sick.
The CMO explained there are some differences in the transmission of monkeypox from what they're used to.
For example, monkeypox is known to be mostly an animal-to-human transmission, and we're seeing more human-to-human transmission now with these cases that we're seeing across the world. So there are some changes, but these are still being investigated. What we do know is that monkeypox is not easily transmitted and requires close contact and close prolonged contact for transmission to occur. So the other thing is that you have the visual, unlike COVID, you actually see the rash, although we are having some cases now that are a little bit atypical in their presentation, but you do have that visual effect.
The Ministry of Education and Youth is urging primary level teachers who have received electronic vouchers, e-vouchers, under the Laptop for Teachers initiatives to redeem their vouchers for devices. Portfolio Minister Favour Williams says in a statement that the latest numbers show that 8,852 e-vouchers for laptops have been issued to primary level teachers across the island. Of that number, only 8,139 have been redeemed. She says that although there were concerns about the availability of the devices in the early stages of the project, since then, vendors have brought in more supplies. With the e-vouchers, teachers can visit an approved vendor location to purchase a laptop that meets the minimum specifications of project developers, e-Learning Jamaica Limited. According to Minister Williams, the vouchers are valued at $90,000. She says, quote, based on the specifications as given by e-learning, teachers should be able to find a device for that price, end quote. In this next episode of Living Healthy, we'll be learning about monkeypox. The symptoms of monkeypox are similar but milder than the symptoms of smallpox. Monkeypox begins with fever, headache, muscle aches, and exhaustion. The World Health Organization says 30 countries have reported more than 200 confirmed cases. The WHO's advisor on HIV and STIs, Andy Seal, along with head of its smallpox division, Dr. Rosamund Lewis, and technical lead Maria Vankakov, share some information about the disease in the recent 75th World Health Assembly.
We do have ongoing working relationships with the Ministries of Health and the laboratories in the African region. We have several countries that we work with very closely because they have been reporting monkeypox over the last few years. These include Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central African Republic, and Cameroon. This is where we're seeing cases being reported now, and so we're working very closely with these countries to help respond and to help try and ascertain why this virus is now becoming more frequently reported.
How does monkeypox spread, and therefore how do you prevent getting monkeypox?
So let's just say right off the top that monkeypox and COVID are not the same disease. It's caused by a different virus and it spreads in a different manner. The way it does spread is through close physical contact. People who have monkeypox do develop a rash, and that rash, if you touch it, that can be contagious. So it is person-to-person close contact spread when it's within families or within social networks where close contact happens.
I think one of the things we've recognized with this outbreak, it's not typical. We're seeing cases, as you say, among men who identify as gay, bisexual, or from other groups of men who have sex with men in several countries, often linked to travel, or recent travel. And it seems clear, as Rosamund was saying, that this is linked to close contact. So this could be through social contact, possibly through sexual contact, which of course is close contact. We're still in the early days of this outbreak, so there's a lot we're still learning. But the communities themselves are clearly, number one, concerned and really keen on getting accurate information to help them understand risk and how they can manage the risk. This is not a gay disease, as some people in social media have attempted to label it. That's just not the case. anybody can contract monkeypox through close contact.
There's a question on whether or not there's something about the virus itself that has changed. Why are we seeing this happening now? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Lewis?
So the question is about whether the virus is changing. So we don't have the answer to this. We don't really know. We can say that this is a DNA virus. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, amongst the largest viruses known. The mutation rate is much lower than for RNA viruses, and so it's a very stable virus. So we don't yet have evidence that there's mutation in the virus itself. Of course, there was smallpox vaccines available, and those contributed tremendously to the eradication of smallpox. At that time, it was learned that, it was observed, and studies were done, that the smallpox vaccines used at that time were protective against monkeypox about 85% of the time. If you've been following, of course you have been following vaccine efficacy information around COVID and other diseases, you'll know that 85% is not perfect, but it's also not terrible. And I would also add that this is a vaccine effectiveness that is attributed to the older vaccines, and we now have new vaccines, because although smallpox was eradicated, this research has continued for the last 40 years, and people were wondering why. Well, this might be a good example of why, that these viruses are closely related to each other, and now we have the benefit of all those years of research in diagnostics, in treatments, and in vaccines that will be brought to bear upon the situation now.
In the business report, gas prices decrease and customers may have an avenue to hold banks accountable. Danita Rodney is at the business desk.
For a fourth week, motorists will see a marginal decrease in gasoline and diesel prices when they fill up at the pumps. According to Petrojam, 87 and 90 octane gasoline will reduce by 25 cents, selling at $214.89 and $219.91 per liter, respectively. Automotive diesel fuel will now be sold for $227.01 per liter, while ultra-low sulfur diesel will be sold for $229.75 per liter. Kerosene will also see a 25 cents decrease, moving the cost to $201.30 per liter. Meanwhile, propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $71.94 per liter, down by $1.09, and butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $80.81 per liter after a decrease of $1.62. Remember that marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markups to the announced prices. Consumers will soon receive greater protection and have a medium to press banks on improving customer service with the impending passage of the Financial Services Protection Bill. Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, Richard Bowles, told Parliament's Standing Finance Committee on Tuesday that the draft have been sent to the Ministry of Finance. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, in giving a preview of the bill, says it will be explicitly geared towards protecting consumers in the financial and banking industry.
This is a gap in the system in that we have a Consumer Affairs Commission that deals with industry overall, but we don't have consumer affairs specifically for the financial services industry, which is why this bill that the governor alluded to is going to address consumer protection in financial services and empower the BOJ to enforce those standards. So it's a gap that needs to be addressed and is being addressed with this bill that we hope to come to Parliament within the next several months.
MD Link Limited, the largest telemedicine platform in the Caribbean, has sought to expand their robust portfolio of services by acquiring Fleet Diagnostics Limited, a private medical laboratory founded in 2014. An innovator in healthcare technology, MD Link has, since 2017, been committed to advancing access to healthcare in Jamaica, and by infusing technology into the diagnostic laboratory system, the company will be able to produce modern labs that bring first-world conveniences to Jamaica and eventually the region. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, July 6, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.82. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $118.74. The pound sterling traded for $181.85, and the euro sold for an average of $157.49. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Wednesday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 488 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 48 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 16 points to close at over 300,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,438 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 45 advanced, 45 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 2 million units, and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Plico Investment Fund was the only active security posting a volume of over 2,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Ebly Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader with 10,000 shares. They were followed by Cave Shepherd and Company Limited, which traded 545 shares. In market data for oil prices slid about 2% to a 12-week low in volatile trade, extending the prior session's heavy losses as investors grew more worried energy demand would take a hit in a potential global recession. Brent futures fell $2.08 to $100.69 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude fell 97 cents to settle at $98.53. And that was the business report on PBC Jamaica. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, Trinidad and Tobago's mask mandate will be lifted on Sunday, July 17, but will remain in place at medical facilities. Health Minister Terence Dale Singh says the decision was based on the current hospital occupancy rates and not the number of daily COVID-19 cases, which continues to decline. Celine Lala has more.
The Ministry of Health will also be recommending that 4 vulnerable groups continue to wear masks, including the immunocompromised, the elderly, the pregnant population, and the unvaccinated.
That 49% of the population, you are really placing yourselves in jeopardy by not being vaccinated. It means a vaccinated person can take a little more risk without a mask.
The minister shows that they are prepared to respond to any possible spikes following the removal of the mask mandate, since hospital numbers have dipped below 100 with a continued downward trend of cases.
We are making the decision based on our hospitalization rates. Our hospitals are not seeing the number of persons who are ill or severely ill.
As for masking in schools, Mr. Dale Singh says no recommendations have been made so far.
We are going to be paying attention to all the data between now and school opening, but as for now and for the next couple of months, from Sunday 17 July, the mask mandate is off.
Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, says CARICOM heads have agreed to look at a new and redefined agreement with Venezuela to deal with rising fuel and fertilizer prices. Ms. Mottley was speaking on her return to Barbados from the CARICOM Heads of Government Summit in Suriname this week.
We took a decision to continue to work towards having the Venezuelan sanctions lifted for the purposes of us being able to have the OECS and others eventually to be able to enter a renewed and redefined Petrocaribe with Venezuela, as well as to look at other carve-outs necessary for Trinidad to be able to explore its joint gas fields between its line with Venezuela, recognizing that Trinidad has extra capacity, and indeed the world needs that now to fight the huge increases that we've seen, as I said, in both fuel prices, but of course fertilizer, which is critical for us to produce the food.
And Ms. Mudley also says the CARICOM heads have finally settled their definition of agricultural domestic workers and security guards, so they can move freely through the region.
Barbados passed its own legislation in 2020, but we've now settled the definition for the entire region, and therefore people who want to move across the region as domestic workers, as security guards, as agricultural workers can do so. And they don't need only certificates, but their practical experience. We've put a mechanism in place to ensure that their practical experience can be taken into account.
CARICOM leaders have agreed on a new, modern, multilateral air services agreement, MASA, that will allow for a new framework within which air transportation will operate in the region. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, says that connectivity in the Eastern Caribbean is urgent, even now as people travel more following the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The leaders on board are the heads of Dominica, Guyana, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados and St. Lucia. Prime Minister Gonsalves acknowledges that several private airlines are operating in the Caribbean, but he explains that these carriers have their governance structure and CARICOM cannot dictate to them. He outlined the action to be taken during the CARICOM press conference.
It may well be the revival of LIAT in some form or the other, but we have to get a consultant in the area of aviation to put the framework together and some numbers as a matter of urgency for us to move on. And sometime, and that is taking place, I've been given a certain responsibility to coordinate certain things, to get that going. And then to get the terms of reference in order for such an exercise. And to have a further conversation at the leadership level, sometime in the period between the 20th of July and the end of July, whether the meeting will take place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines or St. Lucia, I don't know yet, to advance this question in a very practical matter.
Dr. Gonsalves revealed proposals were put forward regarding sea transport.
There are two proposals, two sets of initiatives, one by Trinidad and Tobago and one with Barbados and Guyana and other countries, in relation to fast ferry transport and in relation to traditional ferries, movement of goods. And both initiatives were discussed in caucus with external financing. And a mechanism has been put in place to work out these arrangements and to see how we can advance either of these initiatives or to blend them together as the case may be.
News further afield now. According to local media, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has agreed to resign. The embattled leader had faced a growing rebellion within his party over a series of scandals. More than 50 members of his government have resigned over the past 2 days.
The latest as far as the total goes is 55 now members of the government who've resigned. I'll go back through some of them at the moment, but the most important line that's just emerged in the last 15-20 minutes is a communique from Downing Street which says the Prime Minister will make a statement to the country today. And the understanding is that Boris Johnson will step down as Prime Minister today. He will resign. He wants to continue as Prime Minister until the autumn. That said, but there will be a leadership race for the Conservative Party leadership during the summer. And the intention is that there will be a leader in place of the Conservative Party by the time of the Conservative Party annual conference, which takes place in October. So a brief statement from Downing Street saying the Prime Minister will make a statement to the country today. What we expect to happen is that a pedestal, a plinth will come out from the door behind me, number 10, into the street. Microphones will be attached, and at some point, Boris Johnson will emerge, having bowed, frankly, to the inevitable after the pressure that has been put on him to step down, both, well, for the good of the party, for the good of the country. He was vowing to hang on, vowing to defy the critics, insisting that he had a mandate from the 14 million people that he said voted for him in the 2019 election, despite the fact that his cabinet ministers were putting in their resignation letters, and some of the language that they were using in those letters was utterly scathing of Boris Johnson's leadership, of his integrity, of his vanity as well. The most recent one to go was Caroline Johnson, who's the Conservative Party chairman. The cumulative effect of your errors of judgment, she wrote, have squandered the goodwill of our great party.
In sports, Reggae Girls will try to secure their place in the Group A of the CONCACAF Women's Championship as they go head-to-head with reigning champions, the United States, in Mexico. The match will start at 6 p.m. The other games in Group A will see Mexico versus Haiti, which both lost their opening encounters to Jamaica and the U.S. respectively. That game takes place at 9 p.m. inside the same stadium. The group will shape up more clearly after tonight's round of games, but with only the top two set to make it to semifinals and earn a spot in the 2023 World Cup. The loser of the game between Jamaica and the United States could find themselves in a battle for that second spot. The anti-doping disciplinary hearing for Jamaica and West Indies opening batsman John Campbell has been adjourned until July 19. This follows Wednesday's preliminary virtual hearing where both legal teams are now ordered to submit witness statements by July 12. The three-member disciplinary panel consists of Chairman Kent Gammon, Dr. Marjorie Vassell, and Dean Martin. The Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission is represented by attorney Andre Shackelford, while John Campbell with attorney Mark Paul Cohen. Campbell will answer to the violation of evading, refusing, or failing to submit to sample collection. However, no details were reported as to when the anti-doping rule violation occurred. This could lead to a maximum sanction of a 4-year ban. West Indies are looking to end the T20 International Series against Bangladesh with another win as the third and final match is set for Guyana today. The Windies lead the series 1-0 following Sunday's 35-run win in the second match, while the first game ended in a no result due to rain. Another interrupted match is likely as heavy rain is in forecast for Georgetown during Thursday afternoon. The last two T20 internationals at Providence last year in August were also abandoned due to rain. Captain Nicholas Peran says it's crucial they close out the series with a win.
We as a team, we spoke about winning games, winning series, winning tournaments. And if we can get a series win here, that would be wonderful for us in terms of confidence. Going into play in India and then New Zealand. We're looking forward. We're definitely looking forward to tomorrow to see if we can wrap the series up and be victorious. So it was a collective effort. A lot of guys put their hands up, and that's what we want from a team perspective. Again, we are playing a brand of cricket where we know it's T20 cricket is very inconsistent, and it's difficult for guys to keep performing day in day out. But it's nice that guys are contributing, and that's what matters the most. At the end of the day, once we can get the guys doing exactly what the team needs to win, then we are happy. I don't really want to think too much about the Bangladesh. Yes, they have really good quality spinners as well, but I do believe in our batsmen, and we have the skills as well to assess on the day and get the results for the team. So not really looking into it. So the game is played on this day, and I'm happy with the progress of our batsmen from Netherlands series into the Pakistan series and into that first game in the Bangladesh as well. So I'm happy with where the team is going in terms of batting, and I just want us to just keep supporting each other, because a lot of guys are going to keep making mistakes, but we need to support these guys and try to be there for them, and just let them understand that one game isn't going to damp your confidence. We just need to keep supporting these guys, and I believe everything will be alright.
Corey Bennett has been appointed head coach for the Calabar High School track and field team. The announcement was released on Wednesday via the school's board and replaced longtime head coach Michael Clark, who stepped down in March. Bennett was a recent head coach of Jamaica's Carifta track and field team and is still the coach of girls champs runners-up Hydel. The release stated that Bennett would be responsible for leading and managing the track and field program and for coaching the team within the established school guidelines. Bennett has previously served as jumps coach at St. Jago High School and assistant coach at Wilmer's Boys School. And that's it for this edition of the news on PBC Jamaica. Follow us on all our social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.